Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is your weekly news update for the week of January 10th, 2021. And this past week had a lot of information about products we may see very soon. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is that a fix should be incoming very soon for the M1 MacBook series. So not only the M1 MacBook Air, MacBook Pro that I have here, but also the Mac Mini. So some people are having issues with Bluetooth, also on iOS as well, but there should be an update for macOS coming very soon to address this problem, according to a developer. And so we should see this. It seems sort of inevitable at this time, but it seems like Apple may have acknowledged it. And so we should see that soon, along with other updates I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, the next thing has to do with AirPods. We've been waiting for some updated AirPods Pro, and according to macotakara, if I'm saying that properly, AirPods Pro may see a new launch in April 2021 with a slight redesign. So we know we might get some redesigned ones, some AirPods Pro Lite maybe without the noise cancellation, and apparently they're going to have a smaller case. It may be a little bit smaller in overall dimension, and what advantage that would have, I'm not really sure. I've never really thought that the case was a problem, but we may see something new with that smaller case. Now, last week I mentioned how we might get an iPhone SE Plus in later 2021 or later this year. And according to the same source, macotakara, apparently iPhone SE third generation instead of the Plus may launch alongside the new AirPods and some other products I'll talk about in a moment. So instead of being rounded like that phone, it would be more consistent with the iPhone 12 models where it has a squared off edge, for example. So maybe something like that. The iPhone SE is purportedly supposed to have more of a Touch ID based display or fingerprint sensor on the side, according to what we heard last week. So maybe they'll do something like that. I know a lot of people would welcome that, but it seems like it might eat into an iPhone 12 series lineup. But we'll have to wait and see. But we should know in a few months by April, according to this bit of information and what we're seeing from macotakara. Now, from the same source, we're hearing that the next iPhone, the iPhone 13, may have a smaller notch. So where a lot of people really dislike the notch, personally, it's never been an issue for me, but apparently Apple's been able to sort of minimize the actual sensors and make it smaller. Now, some are saying we're going to see it smaller this way. Some are saying we're going to see it smaller this way. I think from the top to bottom, being a little bit shorter would make more sense. You could sort of fit it closer to the bezel and in the future maybe eliminate it altogether. So maybe we'll see that in the future. I really hope so, just because it would make a really great display if it was just symmetrical all the way around, but hopefully we'll see that. Along with, of course, like I said before, a 120 hertz display. And then also the other information about it is that the iPhone 13, instead of having this huge camera bump like we have here, which is probably difficult to manufacture and has 3 different lenses, may have something a little bit different. So where I've showed this sort of prototype over and over and over for the iPhone 12, which turned out not to be correct. Instead of having a 4-camera bump, we would retain a 3-camera bump. So let's move this out of here and instead have something that more closely resembles this sort of camera style, where there'd be 3, but with a single sheet of glass like we have on the Pixel or the iPad. So the iPad also has this sort of lens layout. Let me show you that. And on the iPad Pro, you would have a single sheet. So instead of having a bunch of protruding lenses, they would be under a single sheet of sapphire, according to this information. So hopefully we'll see something more like that. It would be nicer to have it one single sheet of high quality sapphire, and hopefully we'll see something like that in the future. But we'll have to wait and see, of course, until September to know that for sure. But this camera bump on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is huge, and it's probably difficult to manufacture, so simplifying it seems to make sense. Now, the reason I have this iPhone 5S here is Apple actually pushed out an update to it today, and it was for iOS 12.5.1. That's a security update. They don't specify anything there, and also has updates to exposure notifications. But it covers everything from the 5S to the 6, 6 Plus, the iPod Touch 6th generation, iPad Air Original, iPad Mini 2 and 3. And so those are all covered in that update. Apple keeps pushing those updates. And the reason I bring that up is Apple will probably push out iOS 14.3.1 as soon as tomorrow. Now, it's possible they could push it out tonight since they've been doing sort of random releases at this point. But more likely, I think, would be tomorrow, probably with that same bug fix, security patches, and more. Hopefully fixes for the green tint issue and maybe other fixes as well, along with that Mac update I talked about just a moment ago. So all of those things I would expect to be fixed, maybe some changes to the yellow coloring on the iPhone, although I think that tends to just mean it's more accurate. However, we'll have to wait and see. So of course, as soon as that comes out, I'll make a video and keep you informed about that. Now, along with iOS 14.3.1, Apple could also release iOS 14.4 Beta 2. We haven't had a beta in some time as well, and I would expect the public release to come first, at least based on what they've done in the past. So maybe we'll see that on the 12th, tomorrow, if we don't see it later today. But on the 12th, expect that if we don't see it, and then maybe a beta the following day. Sometimes they release them on the same day, but it's fairly rare. But either way, expect updates this week by at least 2 updates if you're using iPhones. So basically a public release, beta release, and then you'll be able to update your phones. And of course, I'll keep you updated with whatever's contained within those, along with security updates and more. Now, also, people are saying that the Apple Watch Series 6 and Apple Watch SE may give incorrect altitude readings in unusual weather conditions. This was mentioned by macotakara.jp, and if that's true, I would expect a watchOS update as well to sort of address these issues. There could be some issues with watchOS 7 at this point, so maybe we'll see 7.3 or maybe 7.2.1 or something along those lines. I would expect that. Now, Apple continues to work on Apple glasses, and there's been even more information about this. According to Ming-Chi Kuo, I mentioned before that they would announce some sort of augmented reality device this year. And what that would be is basically it uses the camera to overlay different things, but in glasses, this could be particularly helpful with directions and things like that. But according to Mark Gurman, the glasses are in the works, but would show up at 2023 at the earliest. So he's a fairly reliable source, and based on him, we may see glasses as soon as 2023 as far as a release. Now, Apple could show them a little bit earlier for developers, but normally not this early. So maybe we'll see some augmented reality devices this year, maybe we won't, but I would expect at least some Apple glasses within a couple years at this point. Now, the big news this week was about iPads. There's a lot of information about iPads, things we haven't heard before. So we know that Apple's planning to transition their iPad Pros to mini LED and then eventually other displays as well. So Digitimes said to expect mini LED MacBooks in 2022. So we're expecting basically everything to transition to mini LED, and CES is going on right now, and they're showing mini LED displays. So this makes sense. It's the next move in displays, and then we'll eventually get to micro LED. So with the iPad Pro going to mini LED, it might be slightly thicker, but it's not expected to get a redesign in any way. It should have the same sort of bezels, the same sort of edge here that we have now, and have USB-C. However, the least expensive iPad, which is usually about $329 to start, will feature a thinner and lighter design, keeping Touch ID and Lightning, according to, again, macotakara. So that particular source is saying they're sort of in the supply chain and they're seeing what's being made at this point, saying that it's coming in a few months here. Along with the iPad Pro and the lower cost iPad, they also said that we'll see a new iPad mini that will bump the display size up to about 8.4 inches instead of 7.9. So it wouldn't get a major redesign other than maybe thinner bezels due to the larger display. And those are all expected in the March to April timeframe, which makes a lot of sense. That's sort of what we saw last year with those releases. So look forward to those. Of course, Apple releases and updates their iPads with new processors and everything else. And the iPad Pro may get that new M1 equivalent processor, so that should be really interesting. Now, it would be really interesting to see an M1 style processor, that sort of speed and power in an iPad, but apparently Apple has patented a way to wirelessly charge your devices on the palm rest of the MacBook. So here's an M1 MacBook Pro. Maybe you could charge here or here. According to Patently Apple, they found a patent from Apple describing just that. You would take your iPhone, maybe set it down here, and it would wirelessly charge. I don't know how convenient that would be for everyone since you've got different wireless chargers, but it's an idea, and Apple's always working and looking into new ideas. So that should be pretty interesting if they do that. Now, the Apple Car is still in the works, and many people have been reporting about this. Some have good sources, some don't. But according to Korea IT News, Apple is apparently working with Hyundai to help produce a car and expects to have a deal signed as soon as March to begin production in 2024. Now, all the insides of this deal are hard to say, but from Korea IT News, Hyundai is a Korean company, so it makes sense that they might have a little bit more information, and then Apple could work with them to manufacture it to their specs, just like they work with Samsung to manufacture displays to their specs. So the same sort of thing. Hyundai has a lot of cars, a lot of experience not only in vehicles, but also construction equipment and more. So they could definitely do it. They probably have the scale to do it, but it would be really interesting to see that. But don't expect that until, I guess a lot of people are saying late 2020s. So, or late 2028 to be out to the public in masses, but apparently production in 2024. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, finally, when it comes to the AirPods Max, there's something that I actually like a lot, but some people are reporting a lot of condensation inside. Now, I haven't seen this yet. I tried wearing these for a few hours today, and some people are seeing condensation inside this ear cup here. Now, most headphones do not have removable ear cups, and you wouldn't be able to see this necessarily. Those that do, of course, you'd have to look. I've never noticed it on any headphones that I've had, but apparently Apple is having this issue with some people on some of their headphones. So I would like to see if this becomes more of a problem or if it's just something that's normal on regular headphones. And if you have headphones that aren't AirPods and you've experienced this over the ear headphones, I'd love to hear from you below, as I'm not really sure. I haven't had these do that to me yet, but I'll continue to use them and check every time I use them just out of curiosity. So that's it for the news this week. Of course, I'm looking forward to iOS 14.3.1 and iOS 14.4 Beta 2, which I would expect, again, if we don't see it tomorrow, maybe we'll see the public release tomorrow and a beta the following day. So I would expect that sort of release to come out fairly soon. Again, we could see it after this video because Apple has sort of been all over the place with their releases, but look for that. And of course, I'll keep you updated on Twitter and everything else. I'm also on Discord and Telegram as well if you want to check it out there. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.